The Shabbos is Shabbos Mevorchim Chodesh Tammuz. This is the Shabbos of the blessing of the new month of Tammuz. New month coming up. And on this coming Thursday will be the 3rd of Tammuz, which of course is the day that our dear Rebbe, 29 years ago, physically passed away from this world. Although his physical presence is sorely and dearly missing, but his spiritual presence is very real and very present. And the fact of his presence is in the very fact that you guys are all here, that we're all here together. We're all here together to learn. For me, that's a clear understanding, clear perception of the fact that his influence is very strong and stronger than ever. Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. And we share today with Michael in Germany, Brett in Pennsylvania, Eugenia is in Calgary, Cindy in Florida, Andrea in Phoenix, Amy in Colorado, Simcha is in Florida, Rabbi in Morocco, John, North Carolina, Diane, Arizona, Levi and Davida in New York, Zara in Malaysia, Margot in Belgium, Alberto in Brazil, Denise in New Jersey, Michelle is in, not certain, but somewhere. Julia is in Pennsylvania. Tony in California. Rosa in Hungary. David in California. Joseph in New Jersey. Jeff in Michigan. Daphne in South Carolina. Mark in California. Oh la la. Who else do we have joining us today? Francesco in Italy, Jerry in Texas, Eugenio in Argentina, Jan in Mexico, Elise in West Virginia. All right, beautiful. Michael, we have Jay. Instagrammers, we have none other than Akoy in Lima, Peru. We have Natalie in Brazil. We have Hamid in Montreal, Jennifer in Minnesota, and Talabent in New York. Some others I can't make out. Erica in Norway. Beautiful. We learned today about 5 degrees of separation in the human condition, in the human soul. And this will lead us, after today's teachings, in the next chapter, as we conclude today, chapter 8, the understanding of the creative power of God within creation, understanding from us. When we understand ourselves, then we can understand the Creator's involvement in creating something from nothing. Well, at least we have a beginning point. So, Where's the beginning in the human soul, in the created being? Is wisdom, Chachma. That's the beginning, actually. The Targum Yonath, in the translation to Aramaic, one of the translations to Aramaic says, Bereshis, in the beginning, that we translate it. Well, another translation that's given, in the non-literal, but yet translation, is with wisdom. Because wisdom, Chachma, is the beginning of all life force, of all creatures, is wisdom. Not just the human being, but all creation, it begins with wisdom. That's why you can look at a simple thing like a leaf and see the divine wisdom in that leaf. When you look at a body, a human body, all the more so. But in any case, the beginning and the fountainhead of all life force in all creatures is Chachma, wisdom. And from wisdom comes Bina, understanding, and comes Das, knowledge. Right, they flow from there. From intelligence flows the emotive attributes of the rational soul, meaning love and kindness and compassion. All those are derived from the intelligence of the individual. As we see very obviously that a child who has very little wisdom gets angry for small little things and can be unkind. Why? Because they lack understanding. Therefore, their love is for trivial things. And they get upset for, things that an adult won't get upset. Actually, that's one of the ways you know that the adult hasn't matured, is that they get upset for small little things. So this is all based on the emotions of the individuals, based on the intelligence. So the intelligence develops, the emotions develop. Why? Because the intelligence is clothed in the emotions and gives rise to those emotions. Furthermore, the emotional attributes of the soul then, an emotion is just the raw emotion that's in the soul. But then from there, the things that you have a very strong emotional attachment to, or feeling about, rather, I don't know, attachment is not the right word, but strong emotional feeling about, well, then that's going to bring up to now a language in the mind called letters that make up words that you start to think. You think about the love and how to perform the act of kindness to that loved one of yours. Preceding the thinking about how to express that love, or how to go about to show that love, right? Preceding it is the emotion of love that brings up now the thought of how I can, okay, I love this individual, I want to do something for them. And you're thinking how you can go and make it happen. Then of course, so that, what does that mean? So the emotion now serves as the source of the words and the letters of thought. Then within that thought, right, it becomes now clothed. So what do we have in that thought? The emotion is enclosed in it, which causes you to think, right, and give life to the thought. So the emotion is giving life to the thought. And then from that thought as actually the thought now expresses itself in words, in speech, which now that thought becomes the actual vivifying force of the speech that you now express that lovingness. And then from there, of course, it gives rise to an act, a loving act of giving, whether it's giving charity, an act of loving kindness, right? And to act upon it. So, like in the case of the king will then order his servants to give, to be charitable on his behalf. So his word now is bringing to the action. Or sometimes, we skip the expression in words of speech, and from our thoughts, we just act upon it. And we do the act of giving. So what we have here, though, is, and each 5 levels of separation, we have a huge gulf, a huge, vast, incomparable one level to the next. So you take action, which is the final, right, step. The power of the soul to act, to be giving, to stretch the arm to give, is incomparable. Last night, my wife and I were watching a video of 2 of our grandchildren playing with each other. It was adorable. Both don't talk, but they did acts of loving kindness. They don't talk, but they can act. Yeah. Right? With the maturity of, the with grown older, God willing. But it was adorable to see the loving act. Now, I'm not talking about the value of doing a loving act as opposed to just thinking it, but what the soul needs to be able to produce a loving act is incomparable what it is to speech, that you can communicate that lovingness. The proof is, here's a 2-year-old, I just say, dance, a couple words he has, a few words, right? But the actions were there, to sharing a toy, to taking and dancing, siblings together. Beautiful. But to speak and to express, that takes a lot greater power of the soul to do that. And therefore, the action is incomparable to one's capability of expressing themselves in speech. Speech versus thought is also incomparable. Hey, that's why we see how difficult it is to focus our thoughts if you're praying or whatever you're doing, to have a very clear-minded thinking. It's a lot more challenging. Thought is a lot greater power of the soul, right? Clear, cogitated thought is a much more powerful element of the soul than the power of speech. Again, thought is the source of speech. It's greater than it. It's incomparable. Speech, What's the source of speech? What do you speak of? I mean, what's your source of thought, rather? Right? Source of speech is thought. The source of thought is the raw emotion, the way it's in the subconscious before we think it. Again, we think about the things that we have a strong emotional feeling of. We think when you have no strong emotions or something, you're unlikely to think it. So that strong emotion is incomparable. That power of that emotion, that power of the soul, is incomparable to that which what it results in thought. An emotion, where does it come from? It comes ultimately from intelligence. Because the perspective that I have on things, the way I view things, I perceive things, the way I process it in my mind, will then feed my emotions, my feelings. So what we have here is 5 degrees of separation: intelligence, emotions, thought, speech, action. Now, what we've said also, there's a great distance between one level to the next. Intelligence, wisdom, chachma being the highest power of the soul, and action being the lowest power of the soul. Not what is valuable in day-to-day living is not the point over here, but it's intelligence and chachma is the most powerful element of our soul, while action is far removed, 5 degrees of separation. Well, and that's the metaphor. What the metaphor means in reference to understanding us, that now we can know God and His engagement in creation. Stay tuned. That will be chapter 9 coming very soon. All right, do we have any questions? What does it look like? Okay, Rambam coming up. I had a wonderful day of TRC yesterday. At least I enjoyed it. And we'll have another one Sunday night. Yes, that's why it's important to learn Tanya every day. So that way you get the continuation from the previous day and the day before that. And it's one, one day's connected to the next, for the most part. All right. Beautiful. All right. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zurich and Kadesh. My child, it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you Tanya. Wishing you an amazing, wonderful day, a wonderful Shabbos Mevorchim, the month of Tammuz, Gimel Tammuz coming, and only wonderful good things.